Hi everybody and welcome to our most recent SLC Connect call. Thank you to those of you who can join me in person, and for those of you who can't, this recording is being uploaded to YouTube. So I'm going to start today by sharing my screen with you, and hopefully you can see that now. So what we're going to talk to you about today is the state of the UK right now in terms of on a political level, on an economic level, and obviously most importantly for us, from a travel trade point of view. So what we're going to look at in the next 30 to 40 minutes are the UK market today, trends and the reaction from consumers and the reactions from the industry, and really our top tips to stay relevant in market and the kinds of things that you, as somebody who is looking to attract the UK market, should be doing right now. So just to summarize where we were in 2019, pre-COVID, we had, from a UK point of view, 93.1 million trips made. We had a spend on travel of 62 billion, and almost 70% of those trips were essentially leisure, were for travel basically. Just to pick out a couple of key numbers for you, some examples there, we had almost 5 million people traveling to the USA. We had 750,000 traveling to Canada, and we had 315,000 traveling to Vietnam. So that's just a snapshot of some of those destinations, some of those destination numbers, and really where we were in 2019, which was absolutely at the top of our game in terms of passenger spend, passenger numbers, pre-COVID hitting. So the top 10 countries visited by UK residents in 2019, there is a lot of Europe in there, as is the case historically. So we have the sort of the trio at the top that pretty much have remained that trio for a long time now: Spain, France and Italy. We also have Ireland in there, Netherlands, Greece, Germany, Portugal and Poland. And our one non-European entry into that top 10 is the USA. So just to share with you here a graph on what impact COVID has had on travel in the UK. So you can see here, this is our passenger traffic, and we've got a light blue line which is domestic and a dark blue line which is international. To be honest, as you can see, they really follow the same pattern. Really, you can see that there is bigger volume here in terms of international, but really they follow the same trajectory. And you can see here, January 19, start off with travel going, in fact, all the way through until actually, here we go, July 19, where we reached our peak in the UK summer holidays. And you can see here the impact in Q1 of 2020 of what lockdown did, where it completely decimated travel. You can see here equally, we have going into July 20 last year, an upsurge in travel again. And that's when the UK and European borders opened and the UK started to travel. What you have here in about, let's say mid-July, late July onwards, is a spike where that traffic starts to decrease again. And the reasoning for that is that some countries would then started to be removed from the list of where the UK government advised you to go. So for example, a really popular one, Spain, as you see, one of our top 2 on the previous page, was removed from the list of safe destinations, and so that decimated that as a destination. And then you can see here what we have is going into lockdown 2 last November, end of November, where again travel essentially was taken off the cards for many people, and has remained off the cards for many people for the first half of 2021 really. In terms of where we are with the vaccination process, the really good news is that the UK continues to be one of the world leaders in terms of vaccinating the population. So in terms of doses per 100 people, on a world average base, there are nearly 17 doses per 100 people. To pick out a couple of others, significant ones, China is 22.5 doses per 100 people. India is 12.2. Brazil is 22. Germany is 41. But what we have for the UK is 79.4%. So a really, really big leader alongside the likes of Israel and the USA in terms of vaccinations. And how that translates is we have, as of the end of about 24 hours ago, we have 79.4% of the population who have had one dose, and 57.4% of the population have had now 2 doses and are fully vaccinated. So we have a majority of the population who are fully vaccinated. And the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, gave an announcement on Monday evening in the UK, where we had what was called, by the press anyway, Freedom Day, where the remaining restrictions for the UK were going to end on June the 21st. And it's important to stress as we speak, there is no lockdown. There are some restrictions. So, for example, mask wearing, people are encouraged to work from home. You can only have certain numbers. For example, if you go to a restaurant, you can have a table of 6. But if you're outside at a restaurant or a bar, it can be 30. And that number is soon going to increase as well. But what Boris Johnson did announce on Monday was that those restrictions are going to stay for another month until July the 19th. That has primarily been driven by the spread of what was originally called the Indian variant, but is now mainly called the Delta variant, where that has spread significantly in the UK population. But the news on that is that that spread is typically in very, very specific areas. At the moment, it's mainly in the northwest of the UK and a couple of pockets of outer London. And it is predominantly in areas where there is typically heavy Asian/Indian traffic to and from home countries or visiting friends and families in those countries as well. I think it's important to stress as well that the numbers where the COVID cases are rising is also predominantly amongst younger people, and it's also amongst people who haven't been vaccinated. So what is important to stress at the moment is, whilst the numbers are rising exponentially in terms of COVID cases, what is not rising are deaths. Deaths have remained flat, and hospitalizations are rising slightly, but are nowhere near what they were like when you look at, for example, a second wave. So we are definitely in the throes of a third wave, where they don't yet know how many numbers that's going to get to. But the good news is that actually the link between contracting COVID and deaths and hospitalizations has, in the words of the government, not been 100% broken yet, but it has definitely been severed. And the reason for pushing back this freedom date to July the 19th is so that they can vaccinate more people. So just today, this morning, on Wednesday, the 17th of June, they have just opened vaccinations for first jab for 21-year-olds. That is opening to 18-year-olds by this coming Friday. So by the 19th of July, in theory, every single person over the age of 18 in this country will have received a vaccination jab, / they will at least have been offered one, whether or not they take it up or not. And so in theory, by late September, beginning of October, in theory, the entire adult population of the UK will be fully vaccinated. But as it stands today, almost 60% of the UK population is already fully vaccinated. So in terms of consumer finances, the good news is that the economy has grown for the past 3 months, and the 2 lockdowns have essentially amassed significant household savings up to £250 billion. So there is a lot of economic modelling at the moment that there is the fact that the economy is growing at the moment will exponentially boom once all of these restrictions go, because there is so much household savings that have been reserved where people haven't travelled, where people haven't bought the things they once bought, where people haven't invested in things they once bought, and also unemployment numbers are coming down, and a lot of recruiters are saying that they are busier than they've ever been before. So in terms of the economy, there is a sort of a wind coming of inflation, which is making some people nervous, but equally house prices are continuing to rise. There are big savings kept up, and I will come back to this in a bit, but the savings are playing into what people are looking to spend on their holidays in the future. So what we do have in place currently for travel is, and I hasten to add, it is not very popular. There is a traffic light system. So what we have are countries are either coded as green, amber, or red. So green countries, you essentially can travel without any concerns to that country. The restrictions on that are that you have to have filled in a passenger locator form online, and you also have to take a pre-departure test. The green departure list, the green countries, is a very small list. So you can see they're listed down here, for example, Australia, Brunei, the Falkland Islands. So there's a lot of very, very random destinations that actually Brits are unlikely to travel to. There's also destinations on there that Brits, the government is saying we can go to, but that country is saying we cannot go to it. So, for example, Australia and New Zealand are on that list, and we're not currently welcome there right now. We also have on this list Portugal, but Portugal was removed from the list about 10 days ago now. So we have most countries at the moment are on amber status, where what you would have to do is you have to take a pre-departure test. You also have to, on return, you have to have in advance booked and paid for 2 tests that you will take on day 2 and day 8 of a 10-day home quarantine. So that obviously is significant additional cost. The cheapest I've seen for the 2 tests is about 140 quid. And that's also not including the testing that you would have to get done before you go as well. So if you think about, for a family of 4, that's a significant financial cost. But I have to say, there is a lot of press at the moment of people more and more prepared to travel to amber countries. So I would say not many families would be doing it because of the quarantine when they return and because of potentially the cost in terms of testing. But you are getting couples who are working from home anyway, who are just saying, we'll quarantine when we're home, we're working from home, it doesn't really make any difference to us. You're getting also lots of retired people as well who are not prepared to wait any longer and just say, we're going to go for 3 weeks. We'll see what it's like. If it's an amber country when it comes back, so be it. So a red country is absolutely off the list at the moment, because you have to pay for quarantine when you return, which is about £1,400, and you have to stay in a hotel. So no one will be traveling to red countries unless they absolutely have to. Green countries are where people are predominantly focused. Amber countries are where some people are starting to think about. So these countries are reviewed every 3 weeks. So we have our next update coming a week on Thursday. And then 3 weeks after that, when I think it's about 11th of July, we will then announce more, well, I won't, the government will announce more destinations, and then 3 weeks after that. So I think the feeling at the moment is that it's unlikely many will be added in this next upcoming one, purely because we have this this extension of restrictions until July the 19th. But I think it's what the feeling is that from August onwards, more and more places will be added as well. There is equally further pressure on the government to simplify this. What the government say they're looking at right now are data that shows that a country has declining infection rates, that it has a relatively good vaccination ratio, and it doesn't have any variants that have come in, such as the way we've had one called sort of the British Kent variant, we've had the Indian variant, and you know, all these different ones. I think what the government is also concerned about is the level of testing a country is doing, because the UK is now testing quite healthily in terms of big numbers of people. So they are concerned about a country which isn't necessarily reporting that accurately or isn't reporting in big numbers. But there is equally pressure on the government to scrap, if not the traffic light system, but definitely pressure to scrap the testing, because the argument from a lot of the industry is the US is opening up, Europe is opening up, and what people are being told in those countries are, as long as you're fully vaccinated, you know, as of 14 days ago, you can travel. There's no need to be able to take tests when you come back. And there is a lot of pressure on the government to do the same here, because people are saying, well, why are we fully vaccinated if we're not allowed to travel? Most people now have downloaded an NHS app, which we have been told is what people will use for travel. And on that, you have a COVID vaccination tab that you can go to, and it shows the dates of both of your vaccinations for when you enter a country. So as I've alluded to this already, but really the traffic light system is not very popular because it does send out mixed messages. So people are being told by the government, really, you should only travel to green countries. Amber countries were being told, really, you should only travel to them for essential reasons, such as family, such as emergencies, such as if you run a business from those countries, and so on. So we're being told you shouldn't, but equally we're also being told, but no one is going to stop you from traveling to those amber countries. And there are this promo here by Wexus shows you just a snapshot of, there are an increasing number of operators who in their messaging are actively promoting amber countries, and who are also very, very clear in terms of these are the restrictions when you go. This is what you need to do in preparation for when you travel to an amber country. This is what you need to do for a green country. So there is a lot of information out there for people. But I would say the testing and the prospect of quarantining are the big turn-offs for customers now in terms of traveling. So bookings are up 67% compared to the same week in 2020. This data is about a week old now. They're up 4.5% on 2019. And just to pick out a couple of really important things here, average booking value is significantly up there. You can see there, it says average booking value is 19% compared to the same week in 2019. Most operators are saying 15 to 20% more spend on bookings, and it's exponentially bigger than that when you talk about luxury travelers as well. People have saved up all this cash, as I referred to before, and they are prepared to spend it. People are also wanting to do bigger things. They're wanting to do safer things. They're wanting to really make a big statement with a trip after having not traveled potentially for 2 years if they don't end up traveling to next year. And bookings are being made really, really long term at the moment for 22, and many operators are reporting that they are getting 23 demand, and customers are booking for 23, or the operators actually can't cope with that demand, whether yet the product hasn't yet been released that far in advance for 23 bookings. But there is at the moment big demand on 22 and 23. So what operators are doing right now, people have put 2021 to the side for the moment, and most people are expecting they will pick up significant last-minute bookings in September, October, November, and December, but they don't really think it will get going until the end of August, September. What people are actively promoting right now are 22 and beyond. And just to pick out a couple of amber list countries and how they're performing, Maldives, which has done really well this year, is up 171%. Thailand is up 51%, Greece is up 35%, and the USA is up 27%. So even though all of those countries are still listed as amber, people are happily booking for them. So as I've said, I think I said, Portugal was on the green list, but has been removed for a couple of reasons to do with concerns around a supposed new variant, to do with the concerns around slight increase in numbers and how much testing is going on. But when Portugal was afforded green list status, you can see here, Thomas Cook reported more bookings in 1 hour than in the whole of April. Jet2 said they had a 600% increase in bookings in 24 hours, and Skyscanner had 616% increase week on week on people searching for Portugal. In terms of what the airlines are doing, they are being very, very dynamic with these destinations. So as soon as Portugal was added, you had Jet2 and EasyJet announce additional capacity. And I have to say, as the UK, right at this very, very moment, is sort of is allowing minimal travel, what EasyJet has done is pivot some of their demand away from the UK over to Germany right now, because Germany is opening up. But what they're saying is they expect the UK to open up properly from end of July, beginning of August, and they will pivot that capacity back to the UK at that point. So you have the airlines and operators and typical high street agents really, really being dynamic in terms of what they're doing. And you can see here, left-hand side is flight volume from January onwards. February is hotel volume from January onwards, and you can see that increase in bookings is steady. You know, a couple of little breaks along the way where we've had messaging from the government about you shouldn't travel and stuff, but at the moment through to May here, that booking, those bookings have surged. I think what we will see with updated data is June will definitely plateau. There will be no increase, I would say, on this, but I think what we'll expect is June and July will plateau, and those bookings again will exponentially increase from July, end of July, August onwards. So just to pick up on some info from one of our top operators and the demand that they see, they just picked up on Vietnam as a good example, for example, where they've seen a gradual increase in bookings for it. They've also stating that the lead time for Asia has increased because people don't realistically think Asia will come back until the end of this year. So actually, when people are looking for Asia bookings right now, they're asking about 22 and 23. The expectation is that if a destination is what we deem a beach destination, e.g. Thailand, that will pick up a lot of shortened lead time. So that will pick up that September, October, November, December travel very, very quickly, because it's an easy destination. You can do a direct flight there, you can go and stay in a resort, you can stay there for 14 days, and then you can come back. Whereas a destination that is more complex, like let's say Vietnam, for example, the expectation is that lead time will remain longer because you have more complications in terms of how many direct flight options are there, a DMC putting an itinerary together for you. Really, the key messaging from, for example, Trailfinders at the moment is a country needs to get green list status to really, really start to add volume. And really what we need next is countries allowing, and the UK government allowing you to enter without a PCR test as long as you are fully vaccinated. Basically, the messaging is things as they stand are still quite complicated. To give people peace of mind, to give them confidence booking, it needs to be as simple as possible. A couple of other things to pick up on there are that there is a move away from strict cancellation policies, and I think that is something that we have all in the industry seen in the past year. I think that it's realistically here to stay for at least another 18 months. If not, it's just how things will be forever from now on. I think there is a real hesitancy to book things where people are not able to amend them or cancel them. So that time of non-refundable is gone, at least in the short term. The other big piece of advice from trail finders that they're hearing from customers is what is really important to customers and what they're interested in is it's not really the safety when they're there, but it's actually that the experience they have will be as normal as possible. So what they want to know are that things are going to be open, that whilst safety protocols will be followed, that it's not that's not what they're interested in. That's not what the expectation of the holiday is. The expectation is that they are safe, but that they can have the holiday that they would have previously. So that really is their concern. And what customers expect operators to have done is to find out all those health and safety things and social distancing and make sure a resort is safe. Before, they don't want to talk about that. What they want to know is, will my trip be as normal as it can be? So just to update you on some trends and reactions right now coming out of the UK market, Grant Shapps is the UK government minister responsible essentially for travel and in terms of communicating on travel's behalf, in terms of agreeing those rules and so on. And what is really great from an operator point of view is the strong messaging he consistently goes out to the UK market with is you should be booking a trip that is refundable, and you should essentially be booking it with an agent. Don't book it yourself. Don't book it through an OTA. Don't book cheap. Actually book something where you know it is refundable, where you can go and speak to someone. So again, at least in the short term, there is a significant move from the UK market to not just be booking everything yourself online, but actually to book it through a trusted source, essentially. And that trust is really, really key. So you see all the messaging from all the key operators is very, very much, it's not just promotion led, it's also about this is our flexible offer. Let us tell you about our cancellation policy. Let us give you peace of mind with our flex. And you've seen that across the likes of Corona, you've seen it across the likes of Flight Centre, Travel Bag, any key operator you can think of. Right now, what they are interested in doing is building that level of trust. So any update they send will always be heavy on their marketing, of course, like I say, full of those offers for 22, 23, but it will always be topped and tailed by, let us tell you what you need to know about a green list country, about an amber country, about a red country. And let us reassure you and give you peace of mind by telling you what our messaging is around flexibility, changes. So it's very much a two-part thing. And it will, I think it comes up a bit later on in our presentation here as well. But most of the operators have begun to partner with companies to do testing as well, so that they can offer those discounted tests to customers as well. So I touched on lead times already. And as I said, what we're getting is the UK has always been historically a fairly healthy lead-in time, at least for mid-haul and long-haul, of at least 4 months, if not more. That has increased significantly well into 22. And like I say, inquiries are even coming through thick and fast for Christmas 22 into our winter 23 as well. But what you will get realistically as countries start to get added, and as I've mentioned already, are these last minute offers as well. And what we will see is a repeat of what we had last year when travel opened, where the minute a country is listed as green, operators will be rushing out EDMs for that specific country within 24 hours. Most of them have got SLAs in place between marketing and between head office that they must have these offers out. So whilst it's really, really important to focus on long-term offers for operators, it's also really, really important to have those conversations right now about, can we give you an offer, a really, really strong offer for some of that short-term booking where we finalize the dates, you know, nearer the time, even the day it's due to go live, but we get the offer in place now. It's really important, because otherwise you miss that window and those offers are out in market and you've missed that essentially. In terms of flexibility, we've touched on this already, but we are living in a time when it is not possible to have non-refundable rates. It's not possible to say we won't amend. All of the operators are completely leading. You can see here, for example, even with Corona here, they say cancel free of charge with a full refund up to 10 days prior to your departure for any reason. So they're not saying it's specific to COVID. They're saying for any reason. EasyJet, for example, are saying you can change your flights free of charge up to 14 days, within 14 days for charges, and that 10 to 14 day period is shorter amongst other airlines and operators as well. Another big increase in terms of trends are multi-generation holidays. So this was something that we started to see at the end of last year, but has, again, this also plays into the average booking value being higher. But what we're starting to see is families who, until lockdown eased a couple of months ago, potentially hadn't been all together with grandparents, grandkids, parents for 7-8 months. And you're starting to see people book what we call bucket list trips for next year, and also big family celebrations. So, maybe people have missed anniversaries, weddings, 50th birthdays, 60th, 70th, 50 years being married, and people are saying, let's go and do a big trip, and people are prepared to spend money on those trips. I mentioned this already, but for example, we have operators and touring companies actually partnering to provide those PCR tests so that they're as cheap as possible for customers as well. And there is an increase in all that kind of stuff in trying to simplify the customer's journey as much as possible to encourage that customer to travel with you. There is also a really big increase in a lot of messaging and marketing around away from crowds, open spaces, privacy of villas. So resorts where you have your own pool, where you have your own space, they're brilliant options where customers know that there are public spaces they go to, but are also confident that if they wanted to, they could just completely be away from everybody else. So there has been a real increase in sort of experiential nature, away from everyone, that the marketing all has that kind of messaging, and there is no city break messaging. There is no sort of what I would call urban messaging. It's all very much about imagery of deserted beaches, imagery of the sea, imagery of pools in your villa, and so on and so on. And then we are getting increasing marketing around the concept of working from anywhere, where people are still being told to work from home in the UK if they can, at least for another month. And there is a feeling that many companies probably won't there are increasing numbers of people going back to the office, but there is a feeling generally that people won't go back to the office in any significant numbers until at least September, if not into January next year. But I do hasten to add, companies like Google in the UK have started to bring people back into the office as long as social distancing can be complied with. But this messaging around why don't you go and work from somewhere else is really popular in the UK at the moment, where people are saying, well, why don't you plan this and go and do 6 weeks, 2 weeks could be a holiday, 4 weeks you could work remotely. Safety is, of course, really prevalent. So you might have seen this marketing from Switzerland, where they've done an ad with Roger Federer and Robert De Niro, all about, which is a very clever ad, all about, oh, I don't know why I would go to Switzerland. And the whole of the imagery is around, look at how unspoilt it is, look how safe it is, look how how far away from other people you are. So that has played in really well to other messaging that is coming out, and played into some of the fears people have about what will travel be like when it actually resumes. In terms of innovation, this is a really good example. The Maldives have just launched a loyalty card for their country. So you You earn points when you enter the country. You earn points when you do activities like diving, for example. You earn points if you go in what they call the green period of the year, which is less popular to travel. You earn points if it's a wedding or an anniversary. So the idea is you earn these points and you then redeem them against other activities such as meals, diving, and so on and so on. So this is the first time we've seen a country come up with a loyalty program. And another form of innovation coming out of the Middle East is from Qatar, where they have now ensured that you basically don't have to physically touch your in-flight program. So you can just use an app to control it, and, you know, again, reducing customers' concerns about using things that have been used multiple times by other people. Thailand is a really good example of a tourist board that has stayed really, really present in the UK market and has actually done really, really well out of it. The two biggest, and I'll come to them in a minute, who have done really, really well in the UK market in terms of keeping that messaging alive are Thailand and Australia. And both have run significant numbers of agent events, of agent virtual online training, of agent and product manager meetings and trade shows. And there have been a lot of customer-facing engagement as well, in terms of inspirational content, in terms of live from Oz, for example, where you see people feeding animals, you see dolphins, you experience what it's like in resort in Thailand, for example. So there's been some really good innovation coming from both Thailand and Australia, and they have definitely done the best, probably along with New Zealand as well, I would say, at keeping presence in UK market. Now, Thailand has just announced, literally yesterday, they've confirmed anyway, what's called Project Sandbox, where they will open to fully vaccinated travellers from the 1st of July onwards. That will begin with only Phuket, where you will have to stay in Phuket for 14 days, and you could then travel to other parts of Phuket. You don't have to quarantine in a hotel in Phuket, but you can't leave Phuket as a province until you've been there 14 days. So a lot of the industry right now believes there will be increased capacity on direct flights to Phuket, and you will get customers booking Thailand when the UK government tells us we're allowed to travel there, to go purely for what we might call a fly and flop holiday in Phuket, certainly for winter sun as well from the UK. And I already mentioned Australia, but Australia's done a brilliant job, especially given that Australia seems likely to be one of the last countries to reopen to any great passenger numbers. But they've done an amazing job of staying so present, of engaging product managers, of engaging agents, of partnering, of marketing, and they've been really, really strong. And a lot of that messaging is around "we miss you." It's around experience what we experience. So we're going to show you what life is like in Australia. But they've been really, really heavily engaged with the trade. And I think what Thailand, Australia, what New Zealand, and also the Philippines, I should mention the Philippines, all of those tourist boards have been really, really strong at keeping present in the UK market, and it has really set them up for the future, I would say. And they have a lot more engagement with travellers and with potential future customers than some of the other tourist boards who have exited the market and aren't intending to come back until the next year, basically. So, just to finish off with some recommendations for you, what is really important to do, and something that I just referenced there, really is to stay visible in market. And by that, I mean, what I've mentioned is that it's important to make sure those offers are out there, even short term. It's important to, if you have representation in the UK, to talk to your rep and certainly talk to us. I would prefer you talk to us specifically about, I'm not ready to come back to market 100% yet, but I you know, I need to dip my toe into the market. I want you to research for me. I want you to work on a project for me and tell me when you think the right time is to properly re-enter market. But it is important not to disappear completely, because like I say, those last minute offers are being set up as we speak, and people are already talking about 22 and 23 programs, because product managers are just really focused on those future bookings. It's really important to get your dates and your contracts out as far as possible in advance as you can. I referenced this before, but we do have a disconnect for some particular countries. Australia is a good example, where we have a disconnect between what UK customers are wanting to book and what is actually available from in market. So it's really important to get your product out there as far as possible. Remember, the UK has always had a decent lead-in time. That lead-in time has significantly increased. It's important to be as flexible as possible with your offers and with what you offer in terms of amendments and cancellations. And it's important to really engage. And again, this is something that from an SLC point of view, we're really focused on. We can happily talk to you about it. It's really important to engage with online events and training. I would say we are we've reached a saturation point with standard training sessions online. People have done them, customers have done them, agents have done them, agents have done a lot of them, but what there is a real appetite for is more engaging, slightly different stuff. So whether it's online wine tasting, whether it's online painting classes, whether it's joining and we'll show you how to make a cocktail live from in resort. There's a real appetite for slightly different, more quirky things. And it's a real way to embed your property or your resort or your destination in a customer's mind, in an agent's mind, in a really engaging, slightly different way, not in a trying to direct sell to them. Where at the moment, some operators are reluctant to the idea of training because they're either busy with bookings, with cancellations, with amendments, or they're just saying, we don't want to do any training right now because we don't know when that country is going to reopen. But what they are open to is this more sort of soft sell engagement. It's also really important to make life as easy for customers as possible. So to think about, how can I make the experience as seamless as possible, and how can I make sure if we're a resort that everything it runs as it should and everything is as simple as possible. It's also really important to use data to inform your decisions. So here at SLC, we're always really happy to keep you abreast of everything that is happening in market, and to be very honest with you and to tell you when we think is the right time to action stuff and at what level as well. It's also really important to build those partnerships with the travel trade, especially in the UK, which is so big and fragmented, and especially when it's seen so much upheaval in the past year. So it's really important to keep abreast of who those relationships are, of who the key operators are right now, of new brands that operators are creating, because I can guarantee and I can tell you that some people aren't just going away. Actually, there are new brands being born as we speak at the moment, sub brands, I should say, in most cases. But we do have news of a couple of other brands launching in market soon. So people are very focused on the future. And I think if you haven't engaged with the UK market for a while, it's very different now to what it was even 6 months ago. It's also really important to think about the messaging you put out there. Like, does it actually convey to a customer what they're looking for? Like, does it have the right messaging? Does it have the right sort of, does it hit the right note with them, if you like? What it's also important to do is to audit your content. And again, this is something we are very focused on in SLC, and that's to look at your comp set for you. It's to look at your destination for you and to tell you how widely distributed that is in the UK market right now. Who's distributing it? Who's promoting it? Where are the opportunities for the future? And if a particular key operator isn't currently focused on your destination, what are the conversations to be had around when will they be looking to do it? It's also really important to use social media and to have that messaging out there. Like I say, people right now are not particularly interested in being sold actively to, but what they are really interested in is that real sort of experiential, inspirational kind of content that makes them think, do you know what, in 6 months I could be doing that, I could be having that massage by that pool, I could be visiting the Taj Mahal at dawn, I could be you know, see like swimming with dolphins, for example, or feeding the wild dolphins. So it's really, really important to think about experiential and inspirational content. And finally, the really, really important thing to stress is it is really important to not just wait until the end of this year or the end or 2022 before you think about UK activity, because that market is starting to get busy again. And like I say, what people are focused on at the moment is not 21, they're already well into 22, if not 23. And if anything, in the past year, the market has changed so much, where if you look at, for example, an average mail out now, there's huge content for the Caribbean, there's huge content for the Middle East, and that previously would have been Australia, it would have been Bali, it would have been Thailand, there would have been a bit of New Zealand. So that market has completely changed. And the typical destinations that, because the product managers would lead with, has completely gone. And now is a really, really great time to have those conversations and to say, you know, are you open to our destination next year? If not, when will be the time to talk about that? Could we include it? You know, so it's really, really important to be having that messaging and those conversations now, rather than waiting until the end of the year. But basically, that brings us to the end of our presentation. So I want to really, really thank you for either joining us now live or for tuning in for the recording of it. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at SLC. We're always really, really happy to advise you, to have, even if we don't work with you, to sort of have an initial discussion of how we see the UK market and what support we can provide for you. So anything that you're interested in, please, please, please do get in touch. But otherwise, have a brilliant rest of the day. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will hopefully speak to you really soon. Thank you, everyone. Bye now.